Welcome to our continuing series of webinar voices focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We are very pleased to welcome today Ms. Kateryna Pavlova, who works for the State Agency of Ukraine on Exclusion Zone Management and the Department of Institutional Cooperation and Public Relations. She serves as acting head of the State Agency for Chernobyl Exclusion Zone Management and was recently appointed as the head of development of the modern nuclear reactors. She coordinates G7 and the IAEA projects related to decommissioning the old nuclear reactors and radio waste management at Chernobyl. She participated in the G7 working groups against the spread of weapons of mass destruction, the physical security, and the US-Ukrainian Working Group on export controls. Kateryna obtained her Master of Science diploma in engineering in Denmark in 2011 and is currently completing her PhD. Since January 2020, she is a member of the expert group of K1 projects at Columbia University in the United States. Over to you, Kateryna.
Thank you so much. Welcome to our webinars. Thank you so much, Dr. Durbach, to invite me. And I'm looking forward to share my experience and knowledge. I will start to demonstrate my presentation. Thank you so much. I would like to share with you all my knowledge about a new program, FIRST. FIRST is a US program which is envisioned as a partnership between agencies of US government, provides a framework for supporting current and political nuclear energy country to make responsible nuclear power deployment decision consistent with the highest nuclear security, safety, and non-proliferation standards. Through technical capacity building and integrate political engagement. First, build long-term relationship between US and foreign partners. Supports nuclear energy countries to prioritize consideration of nuclear security, safety, non-proliferation, and sound financial arrangement in future advanced reactor procurement decision. You can see how many active developers and participants in the promotion of new technologies in the energy sphere, especially small modular reactor technology. Ukraine became a part of program during COP26 and actively participated in the first project. A national group from Ukraine was created, which include best experts in the energy sector, and I have the honor to be a part of this national team. The energy system of Ukraine is very diverse, but we are a nuclear country since most of our energy is generated by nuclear power plant. We have also big amount of thermal power plant, and we also have provide for last 5 years so many energy project from alternative source. The national operator of nuclear energy in Ukraine is Energoatom. We have 4 atomic stations and 15 nuclear power reactors. Nuclear power is considered to be one of the most cost-effective low-carbon energy source. Nuclear power use will facilitate a solution to energy sector decarbonization. Future development of the nuclear power sector till 2035 assumes the growth of the nuclear power share in the total energy mix. Our plan is a draft and approve a long-term program of development of nuclear power industry in Ukraine to select reactor technologies for the new build to replace capacities of the nuclear power plant to be decommissioned after 2030. An important role in this future development of nuclear energy in Ukraine, we provide to SMR technology. Why small modular reactor? Because high safety standards compare with big size reactor, reduce of total core radioactivity, integrated design, flexible operation and use, absence limit for size, weight and transformation of main equipment, the possibility of installation of power units component and the nuclear power plant. Goals for implementation to provide new technology in Ukraine is replacement of old coal generation, stability and adequacy of united electricity network basin-wide renewable source deployment, hydrogen and synthetic fuel production, dieselization, role of uranium and plutonium after use of generation. And of course, very important role in all the system is licensing. Selection of reactor technology and power unit in Ukraine is provided with main standards. Some aspects of selection is technology is considered, technological indicators, possibility of power unit construction, and also design adaptation for serial construction in Ukraine. We already provide some amount of learning, and we select of some potential type of reactor, which is probably can be learned and searched to install it in Ukraine. Assessment areas for safety, economy, infrastructure, non-proliferation, environment, equipment, and material of design. And you can see that the best mentions for our energy system, it is AP1000, SMR 160, and SMR technology of new scale. Thank you so much for attention, and I'm waiting for your question and ready to answer. Dr. Durbar, we can.
Thank you very much, Kateryna. I have some questions for you from the audience that I think would be interesting for you to answer. The first one is, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. And I have a question. There has been an energy crisis in Europe recently, but sustainable energy did not help because we didn't have the supply and stations. We only had supply and stations from gas from Russia. How quickly and efficiently can we switch to renewable energy sources?
It's very important question and issue now for many countries in Europe, as well for Ukraine, because energy independence, it is very important for our future, and we need work all together. Europe, USA, and countries who is very well known these new technologies to provide and exchange the technologies between each other to provide this technology to our system. But we cannot say exactly what time it takes. But I can say from Ukraine, we work so hard for last 4 years, and in 4 years we grow for until 2 gigawatts. We grow amount of energy from alternative source, and but the most big issue for energy from alternative source, it is green tariff, and in Ukraine it's quite big. That's why it's very big consequences for our economic. So that's why we need to provide some special new rules for green energy, for green tariff. As more it will be good for our economic system in Ukraine, as more project we will implement. But I do believe that nuclear energy is also, we can say, environment friendly energy, and this is cost-effective energy, and nuclear energy will play biggest role in energy independence from Russia.
Thank you, Kateryna. Another question that was asked.
Dr. Mishkati is online, and he has a question. Could you be so kind and put him online?
Sure. Dr. Mishkati.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rubak. Thank you, Kateryna. Congratulations on your new appointment. That will be great, and it bodes well for your country, a lady with your expertise participating in selecting the new reactor technology. I have been following this issue of small modular reactors, and also another category which is called non-light water reactors, like gas-cooled reactors and others. There have been a lot of discussion going on vis-a-vis their safety, non-proliferation studies, and that. What can I tell you? Sorry.
Dr. Mishkati, could you just ask the question pertaining to Kateryna's presentation?
My question is, what type of plans you have to evaluate the safety aspects of these small modular reactors, and how it will work in your selection of the technology?
This is issue staying on all our connection with our partners, but first of all, of course, Ukraine and our experts will look on result of reports from IAEA, and we're sure that alliances and all IAEA research will open for us more information about safety technology, for example, Rolls-Royce or SMR 160 or NuScale. But today we are, first of all, we must understand that we need create a special program to build a research reactor, and to found the special type of research reactor which we will implement or which we will build. We need also understand how big capacity, how big power it should be, because Rolls-Royce, they have power 400 megawatt. NuScale, they have more than 100 megawatt, and NuScale, it's modules nearby, so we need 6 power plants, 6 modules to be built near each other. And also it's very important to understand for each module of reactor, we need understand that we need special infrastructure, energy infrastructure for connection to the grid. So this is many questions for this, and unfortunately I can't answer you now. We will work on it together with international experts, with IAEA during this year, to choose this type of reactor which will be mentioned for our energy system.
Thank you very much.
Well, there is another question, which I consider a very good one, from one of our students, and that is, Ms. Pavlova, will renewable energy sources stop global warming?
First of all, we should understand that stop global warming can not sources. It must stop people, society, countries, and stakeholders in all kinds of spheres, not just energy sphere as well. But alternative sources, they play main role in this area. And we can see that for last 2-3 years, the sources, especially panels and wind power equipment, it started to be less of cost. So this is very important now to provide climate to implement this kind of project. But it's very also important to understand that, for example, in Denmark, we have a lot of wind and good climate to create power units and build power units of wind. In some other countries where is a lot of sun, it's very important to understand that this is solar panels, it can be a good decision for this country. But for Ukraine, unfortunately, we can't consider it that especially just alternative sources like wind or solar, it's decision for Ukraine. I do believe that nuclear power, especially with small modular reactor, this is decision for our country, for our energy system, for our economical side to be provided, and this mentioned especially for Ukraine.
Thank you, Ms. Pavlova. Ferry?
I have another question here that asks something similar. What if the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow? What is the energy response such that you can still power and meet the needs of your citizens?
Nuclear power can work, and especially, for example, in Ukraine, our nuclear plants, they not connect to internet, and it's not Wi-Fi or some extra connection. So nuclear power will save the world in case of blockchain or something like you mentioned, sun not shine and wind not blow. So nuclear power, it's more sustainable in this case.
Another question that has come up has been, suppose that Ukraine add additional types of energy to the energy portfolio. What other specific alternative energy sources is Ukraine considering that would be additional to the nuclear power?
We also now have many activity in this sphere of hydrogen. So we work very closely with our European partners to prepare Ukraine to be the main partner for Europe to provide and supply hydrogen. So if we talk about something new, something environment friendly, then it's hydrogen. But of course, other source like biogas, it's also can have big part of our energy structure in nearest future in this field.
Another question could be, another question is, what did Ukraine learn from the Chernobyl catastrophe such that can we guarantee or minimize the risk that something like this won't happen again in the future, both in Ukraine but around the world?
First of all, Ukraine and all world learn that SSSR and the Soviet Union create and supply this catastrophe. Second is that we learn and we stop, operate and build RBMK type reactor. We do not have, and other countries, just Russia, still have RBMK kind reactor. All other countries have no RBMK reactors. RBMK reactors, they really have questions with safety. So we also learn what it's mean the human mistake. So a lot of learns we learn, but the most important that in future we will do all possible to supply and build and use just safe technology and environmentally friendly. And SMR, small modular reactors, they're really more safe because the power units, it's close inside in little reactor, and power of this small modular reactor, it's not so high to be like in big size of reactors. And in case of something extremely, the evaluation and pollution of some not radioactive but hazard components, it will be so close to this area. It will not spread all over and in big area.
Thank you, Kateryna. That's a good explanation for why one is safer. Another question is, do you think in the long term, will Ukraine ever have only renewable sources of energy, or will nuclear energy always play a part?
I think that it's already play a part, and nuclear energy, you can see China, US and France and Ukraine and Russia, we all operate nuclear. So the most important and big role on all this is, of course, to provide new technology, to use and increase the amount of new technology, because everything what it's learned and built from new technology, this is new step for safety and for environmentally friendly. And also the most important to understand that radioactive waste from nuclear power plant, this is issue we manage already. And so many countries like Sweden, like France, already built deep geological disposal, where they will dispose all this radioactive waste for long term. So nuclear energy is mentioned all steps of operation, and I do believe that this is the best decision for nearest future, of course.
Great, thank you. Another question is, currently there is a military conflict in the eastern side of Ukraine, where military equipment is being built up. How much of this military equipment can be dangerous to the environment?
Unfortunately, I can't say from Russia side, because Russia side it's occupied some of our territory, and of course it's so many military. They now Russian military staying on our borders all over, so I can't respond for this. But from our side, Ukraine, we live in this territory, and this is our country, and we do care about environment, about people, about animals, about flora, fauna. So, and we do have experts, and we do have institutions who of course control all this activity, but we do not have atomic weapon. This is the most important, that we do not have atomic weapon. And nuclear weapon, atomic weapon, which is Russia now trying to build some big stories that they can use or wherever. This is of course this is a hazard question, and unfortunately I have no answer. And we do believe that Russia will not use atomic weapon, but they are so powerful in this area. Of course, they are a country of P5, and they have big arsenal, and they have big power in this with this topic. So
Another question that came up was, which developed countries does Ukraine need to focus on achieving a high level of energy efficiency? So which developed countries does Ukraine need to build relationships with?
We already have a good relation and good information exchange and expertise exchange with US, with France, with Great Britain, and we in the field of hydrogen, we have good cooperation with Germany and with Japan. So yeah, this is the main countries I just mentioned.
Another question that is important is, could you share the progress of Chernobyl? At what time or date do you think that the area will be fully suitable for normal life again? And is there possible to restore the region to what it was at the level before?
Unfortunately, this territory will never be used for living of people, because it's contaminated with transuranium elements, and it's a long-term life of these elements, and it's around 24,000 years. So, but it's good for nature and good for animals, for environment, and this area, 30 kilometer zone around Chernobyl nuclear power plant, it is biggest actually in Europe biosphere reserve, where it's now it's living a lot of different kind of animals and different kind of trees, and this is area is renew itself because of zero impact of people. That's why we can say that it's unfortunately never will be used for human life, but it's good that it will be used for animals' life.
This is a final question I have for you, Kateryna. There are groups and initiatives and institutions around the world that deal with the consequences and the use of nuclear weapons. How can ordinary students and people outside these institutions contribute and make efforts to help the environment in the context of nuclear weapons use?
First of all, we have a lot of platforms where students and experts can share meanings and articles and some research. For example, the Bulletin, it's international magazine, and a lot of in IAEA we have a lot of activities where students can join the conversations and some research. But most important role in the area of non-proliferation, of course, it's playing a non-proliferation treaty, NPT. And this is like most important treaty for P5, for countries who have nuclear weapons, and it's also very important treaty for other countries who submit additional protocol to not apply or not supply or not create nuclear weapons in their country. So it is something very important in the geopolitical level, and it's also a lot of instruments which can use society and students to be like not part of NPT, but to be like part of experts who make meanings exchange and the knowledge exchange every day. It's a lot of platforms. It's just research on internet, and I know that the Columbia University also have some alumni where they can share articles and meanings. So
thank you, Kateryna. Those are all the questions I have. If I can hand it back to Dr. Durbach.
Ferry, I have sent you all the questions. Please look at your email. But in the meantime, I will ask Kateryna, because I get questions also, which energy sources produce the best for sustainable development and sustainable energy? And how is sustainable energy safe for the environment?
I want to just one more time mention that this depends of which area and which country we're looking for. Because, for example, in Ukraine, we do not have a lot of wind, or we have just a lot of sun in Odessa area and in some part of Ukraine. So this is very important to understand capability and what country have possibility to provide which kind of energy and infrastructure for this energy. So I do believe that Europe mostly, where they have a lot of wind and where they have hydropower, it is something what they can use, and it's environmentally friendly. Such a country like Denmark, like Norway, like Sweden, they have big possibility to use wind power. Such a country in Africa, like Egypt, we can see they now create and supply and implement a lot of projects in the sphere of solar. So it depends of area, but all sources which it's not use coal and gas, oil, I do think that these sources is environmentally friendly, but we should consider that coal and the oil and gas, this is not environmentally friendly energy source.
Kateryna, there's another question here while Ferry is reviewing his list. Do you think that alternative energy can eventually completely replace nuclear energy? And if so, why?
I don't believe that it's possible. First of all, because how I mentioned in my presentation, the population of world grows every year. And that's why energy, capability of energy source, we also grows every year. And digitalization bring also some aspects with which provides the growth of energy components. So alternative sources, I don't believe they can even be nearby nuclear. First of all, nuclear is sustainable. Nuclear is big amount of energy and sustainable for system. And alternative sources, wind, solar, it's growing by big lines up and down. And to balance this system, one more time, we need coal and gas. So this is some issues which we should be very careful, because in some parties we will use a lot of sun, we will play with this unstable energy, high and middle or low levels, and then it's so bad for energy in general system. So nuclear is the best decision for sustainable and for big amount of energy. But in some parties, in some countries, in some little little area where is now possible to build a big reactor, it can be provided the project with small modular reactor. And this can be a decision for different parties.
Next question is, what kind of reactors are more secure for both nature and people?
Small modular reactor is, of course, more environmentally friendly. And nuclear power plants, which is now it's VVR technology, it's also environmentally friendly, and just not RBMK reactor, because RBMK reactors, they have issues with safety.
Could you compare the current use of nuclear reactors, for example, France versus Russia, or well, Chernobyl, or any other form, like pros and cons? Could you compare them?
France, Great Britain, US, they of course implement a lot of safety and security technologies, and they change a lot for last 50 years in the area of nuclear use. Russia, unfortunately, they still operate RBMK reactor. And of course, they use some of research reactors and RBMK reactors for enrichment of uranium. So this is already not safe and secure. Some of reactors in Russia continue to operate more overall of use. What it means, for example, nuclear reactor, it's for 30 plus doubles or 60 years. But some of reactor in Russia, they already continued for work more than 60 years. So this is a big
This
problem.
question is for your other position. Will Chernobyl ever be radiation free?
No, for 24,000 years, no. It's contaminated with transuranium elements, and it's spread all over the 260 square kilometers. It's like territory of Luxembourg.
Okay, Ferry, do you have your other questions?
I have one more question. What is your forecast for countries around the world for adopting sustainable energy in the next few decades?
It is big result we were mentioned it in from 2015 till 2020, but I think now after COP26 it will be more and more active countries which will use new technologies and reduce sustainable energy and go into new technologies with environment-friendly technologies. So I think COP26 will double speed this process.
And another question is, how do you think sustainable energy will affect the economy of Ukraine and its development?
It is a fact already with alternative sources provided at last 5 years. It is big amount of generation growth, and it's a big amount of green tariff is going to our energy economical system. But I think if we talk about new SMR technology, small modular reactor, we will have big help with supplier. We will have big help from US and Great Britain in this field. For example, to even analyze our system and to choose best decision. It's also take a lot of time and take some budget for this. So they will help us with these issues. And I believe that also in 2030, we will consider 2 reactors for decommissioning in Rivnenska station, and we will replace the power units of this decommissioning units by some new energy source.
I have another question here. There was an energy crisis in Europe recently due to the lack of gas from Russia. How quickly and efficiently will we be able to switch to renewable energy using the modern reactors that you spoke about?
I don't understand why we didn't think and Europe didn't think before. Why we all the time in last, I think, 20 years, we hear this component like supply gas from Russia, and Russia makes some problem with it and some new goals and new issues. So this is already, I can say, too late ask about. We should, and Europe should thinking about 20 years ago, but if we talk that it's too late, then small modular reactor can be best decision on it, because small modular reactor can fast design, fast build, and it supply energy in the energy system, sustainable energy, and I cannot say cheap. Because of course small modular reactor is not cheap system, but it is for long term, and it is sustainable and environmentally friendly, and it's big capacity to deal and to be in one line with gas from Russia.
Another question, which I think you partially answered, what is the best option for obtaining constant renewable energy? Is it nuclear?
It is nuclear. We have no new kind of energy yet, which is really powerful, which is really sustainable, and which is really low cost. So of course it's nuclear, and nuclear using in many areas, and nuclear use is really really save the budget of many countries. But one more time, in some countries, of course, it is maybe can be better decision like solar in Africa, like wind in some Scandinavian areas. So it depends of many things, but nuclear, it is the most powerful and the most sustainable and the best decision for nearest future in our world globally.
This is an interesting question. We have as energy coal, fracking, which destroys the water table, wind energy, which destroys and kills the birds, solar energy, which has to be replaced every 10, 15 years. And I wondered, to what extent will the modern nuclear reactors be able to compensate for that?
This is goals for future, and unfortunately today we have no answer, because it is not so many countries and not so many companies operate small modular reactor. The small modular reactor technology now just under research, under licensing, and under feasibility study and all over the world. So we cannot say exactly what it can, but one of main issue, it is cybersecurity for small modular reactor, because a small modular reactor will operate small amount of stuff, but it's mostly will first line of safety. It will consist from cybersecurity issues, and this can be, of course, some of goals for big research, because cybersecurity is very important in the technology of small modular reactor.
All right, Ferry, do you have another question?
No, Dr. Durbeck, I have asked all my questions.
You have asked all your questions. Okay, do you have any thoughts so far? I will review the rest of my question list. Dr. Miscati? Ferry, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Durbeck. I would like to thank Kateryna for excellent presentation, and I hope that you will be successful in doing this great project. Good luck, and hopefully we will attend via virtually the celebration when your reactor goes online in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also want to mention that in Ukraine, I will consider and make announcement and work hard to push our government to understand that Chernobyl area is the best decision for research small modular reactor, because we have energy infrastructure there, we have staff engineers, and it is 150 kilometers from Kyiv, and I do believe that first small modular reactor in Europe will be in will build it in Chernobyl.
Dr. Miscati, while you're considering other points that you can bring up, I have another question, and it says, congratulations, Ms. Pavlova. My question is, there are claims that the transition to sustainable energy is very expensive and is not expedient. This is probably the main reason why countries are delaying this process. How long, in your opinion, will it take for sustainable energy to be able to cover costs and work to support the economy and our environment? It's a long question, but it's a good one.
I have actually very short answer. How we can ask and just talk about cost if we now considering that climate change and global warming will kill all our population if we not act today, extremely act today. So that's why today is not question about cost, because the most important cost is the existence of our planet. So we will not stop because of some costs of some technologies or some sources or some research. We should thinking about life cost, about our planet and about our climate.
Thank you, Kateryna. Dr. Miscati, any more comments? We still have 5 minutes left. So
thank you. My only other comment is, for the last 2 days, I attended the workshop with Arab Atomic Energy Agency, which is a composition of some like 10 Arab states. There are also some members of that Arab Atomic Energy Agency. They are also considering moving toward getting a small modular reactor. Kateryna, is there like a user group within IAEA or outside that all of these countries that are embarking on small modular reactors, you get together, compare notes, and your experts meet?
Not yet. Our team, it's national team, 8 persons represent Ukraine on the board of, together with IAEA and the US and European Commission. But we do believe that nearest future IAEA will provide some network and some platform to connect all expertise from all countries who is interested in these technologies.
Thank you.
any other thoughts, Dr. Miscati?
Sorry, you are giving me the floor, Dr. Durbeck, and as a professor, I cannot stop making comments. As you very well know, Kateryna, there is for the old reactors, there is a user group in the United States. For example, Babcock and Wilcox user groups, this Westinghouse reactors user groups. I think you, by all your very strong credentials, I think you should consider launching the user group for SMRs. You are considering 3 SMRs. Maybe you can send an invite to the other people that considering this SMRs, and you can be the leader. Ukraine can be a leader of this user group for the SMRs.
Thank you for advice, and I will share this with my colleagues in our team, and probably we will do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more, Ferry, did you receive any other questions? Because I still keep receiving them.
You can share with me by email and I will answer.
Well, if we can answer it now, we have a minute and a half. Ferry?
I have one more question, which is along the lines of what Dr. Muscati said, is how can Ukraine be involved as a leader in helping countries and people around the world transition to more sustainable energy?
Ukraine is leader of working with consequences of Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and we have best staff and engineers who is working on nuclear power plant in Chernobyl. These engineers are very, very how to say, high level, learned to work with commissioning reactors and RBMK reactors, and working in the area where was biggest, largest Chernobyl accident, and Ukraine have good knowledge and big experience with operation of many type of RBMK and VVR reactor. We also have many special institutes and universities where our students learn a lot about the energy sphere. So Ukraine already leader. So we just need to work more closely with our partners, international partners, to communicate, to make some special program to provide new technology, and we can be big area for our next generation countries who will take our experience. I mean that Ukraine can be good platform for experience in nuclear sphere, because we had this accident and we work with these issues, and we continue work with issues after the accident, and actually we learn a lot, and we are ready to share this with all over the world.
Well, Kateryna, thank you very, very much for your extensive sharing with us and extensive information that you have given this webinar. I really hope that everybody will be able to download, if they wish, your PowerPoint so they can review the slides. But I'm grateful that you were able to take the time from your meetings to join with us. And we all wish you a wonderful, successful future in achieving the goals that you have with the modern small nuclear reactors. Dr. Muscati, thank you very much for joining us. It was always a pleasure to have you on board, and we hope to be able to discuss a more extensive presentation with you in the near future. Ferry, thank you very much for doing a wonderful job, as usual. And finally, I want to announce that next week we will have Dr. Patricia Miskowski from the Sloan Kettering Cancer Center talking about the effect of nuclear radiation on skin and what you have to do when you're young to prepare yourself to avoid squamous cancers. So do take good care of yourself and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.